Yeah, you saw that right. College kids nowadays are seemingly dressing half naked and walking across campus as if that is the norm. It seems to me that college, the education system of college here in America, is just becoming more of a cesspool system rather than an education system. You see, back in the day prior or centuries prior, education was held to a gold standard. You can only have certain people going within that system, usually being wealthy and powerful families. You didn't really have the normal person being able to go to school. And the people that did go to school, they actually wanted to learn, which is something that is seeming to be off in today's modern day and age, in that people are just going through all these different majors and they don't give a damn about the material or what they're being taught. Then they're graduating and then they're wondering why they can't land these roles because they didn't do internships, they don't know how to answer these technical interview questions. They don't practice on the type of work that's being done by creating projects and whatnot, and then they complain about it. Meanwhile, throughout their entire history, when they were at college, all they ever did was party, drink themselves to death, and sleep with one another. And it's absolutely more sickening that this is becoming the new norm here in America, and I imagine all across other Western nations when it comes to Europe and Canada and Mexico. Who the frick knows at this point? So nowadays, people are putting their short term pleasure above their long term goals. And this is something that we're seeing all across the board when it comes to, especially financial status, right? How to get rich the quickest. How can I do drop shipping or day trading to become a millionaire overnight? When in reality, good things are built over a long period of time. But that is something a lot of these people lack. They lack that patience to finally get to see their reward. And so what do we see in colleges? We see people just sleeping around one another like crazy. You're having girls, going up to a guy in a club, sleeping with that guy. Then the next day they have another guy, and then the next day after that they have another one. And on the male side of things, you're also having the dudes allowing this to happen. A lot of men think that it's one side, it's all the women's fault. No, it's not. It is just as big, if not more so, the men's fault because we continue to enable this. We continue to allow these terrible behaviors to happen. And in so doing so, we're seeing the decay of society as we see, right? We're seeing IQ levels continuously drop, especially in Western countries. This is something that other generations never had to experience before. You're also seeing quality across the board for products, for the work that is being done, just continuously drop. And you're also seeing people having no clue what they are doing when it comes to the work that's being done because they weren't able to retain any of the information that they were taught in school. And perhaps some jobs, are completely different to what they were taught in school and you learn on the job. That's a whole nother thing. But this just continues to add on to the pile that the education system is in shambles. There's so many cracks showing, and yet it is so slow, just as with any government, right? With implementing changes to catch up with the times that we are in now. With having, perhaps these systems in place to minimize or even block cheating fully, right? You're having online classes where kids are literally able to, you know, pull up their phone and just look up the answers to these exam questions that they're taking online. It's absolutely ridiculous to me. And what's saddening to see is that a lot of parents think that them sending off their kids to college is going to create a better life for them. In reality, it's probably not. You're just having too many kids graduating college, being educated compared to decades prior, that you're just not going to have enough jobs for everyone to have. But what's saddening to me is that a lot of kids, they don't see that their parents are sacrificing so much for them. You're having so many kids that are so lucky that their parents are paying for their college, that they're able to move across state or across the nation to the point where they're going to these schools that cost 20, 30 grand a year, and they don't have to pay for anything. They don't have to pay for their living expenses because they're all covered by their parents. And yet, what do? Instead of taking that opportunity that they're given to receive a better education, they go ahead and squander it by just doing whatever the hell they want. Usually when it comes to sleeping around and just cheating their way through college. And what's more crazy when it comes to having, long-term relationships, which is something, in college you're probably not going to have. But let's say you get into a long-term relationship, you get married. Guess what? 70% of divorces are initiated by women. And of those women, 90% are college educated. It just continues to add on to the pile of why do I want to have someone who went to school, get received an education, and marry them to perhaps only be divorced, right? Why would you want to go through all of that? You probably wouldn't. And I don't think a lot of generations prior had to experience this, especially, our parents and grandparents' era. You had people who actually had some decency. They dressed modestly and nicely, and they attracted whoever they attracted. And they were able to eventually build up lives of themselves and start a family and go through the motions of that. And this is showing that nowadays you don't need a college education level anymore. You're probably actually better off once you graduate high school to just work, and instead of wasting 4 years of your life receiving a such a shitty education, you could probably be saving up a lot of that money and not get into debt. And you'll probably be better off if you just invested in it and let time do its thing.